Let's check in on another Trump cabinet meeting thing, sort of. Him, and he brings in the press and he gets all of his cabinet officials to compliment him. You're the best. And then he takes some questions. And this one was particularly strange and shorter than usual. And interestingly, I had the same thought when I watched the clip that we'll start with. We'll kind of start from the end and work backwards. But the Tennessee hauler outlines what takes place. You can show this, Jaden, in the clip. It's just a wild series of events where the question is, China says it's fake news that trade talks are happening. Trump says, well, they had a meeting this morning. And the reporter says, who's they? And Trump says, doesn't matter. We may reveal later. As usual, your reporting's wrong. And then ends presser as the Tennessee hauler. Kind of a strange note to end the presser on. Let's take a look at this. And actually, I should tell you about the reporting. USA Today, I mean, if you just search China fake news, there's a bazillion articles and outlets reporting on the statement from China calling Trump's proclamation that they're having good trade talks fake news. And actually, this is the wrong article. But you can see here, if you just search China fake news, USA Today, China calls on Trump to drop tariffs, says talks are fake news. Fake news, Chinese officials dismiss claims of U.S. trade war consultations. China rejects Trump's fake news. China says not in trade talks with the United States from the Wall Street Journal. China hasn't engaged in trade talks with the Trump administration, Chinese officials said, denying reports the world's largest two economies have started negotiations. So just outright trying to humiliate Trump by saying, no, we're not making the progress that he says that we are. Oof. And Trump says, no, they, an ominous they, have been engaging in talks. Here's that moment, and that's where he ends the press.
Question on China. Can you clarify with whom the U.S. is speaking with China? They're saying it's fake news that trade talks are happening.
Well, they had a meeting this morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter who they is. We may reveal it later, but they had meetings this morning, and we've been meeting with China. And so I think you have, Jeff, as usual, I think you have your reporting wrong. Thank you very much. We'll see you. We'll see you.
Yeah, and that is where the folks get ushered out.
Morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter who they is. We may reveal it later, but they had meetings this morning, and we've been meeting with China. And so I think you have, Jeff, as usual. I think you have your reporting wrong. Thank you very much. We'll see you. We'll see you inside. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody else. Thank you. Thank you. Keep moving.
So a confusing note to end on, but one little random thought was, did you hear him say, it doesn't matter who they is? It doesn't matter who they is. I thought MAGA told us that they could never be used as a singular. Interesting little bonus note there. Eric Columbus says, reporter, who is they? Trump. Doesn't matter who they is. And I saw someone else say something to the effect of, it never matters. There's always some they, the Trump, they have said, they say I'm the most popular president ever. They want to keep me from releasing the Epstein files. And he really struggles to define exactly who they is, as he said. Now, there was more from this meeting. We'll move now to this.
As you pointed out, the former Secretary General of NATO is here, Mr. Stoltenberg. How important is the NATO defense alliance, Mr. President? Is it sacrosanct?
So how important is NATO is the question. By the way, while you're watching this, if you do appreciate the show and want to click the subscribe button, I'd appreciate you. And then all those little engagement juicers, you know what it is, liking and commenting, and the join button if you want to become a member. Great stuff.
Your perspective.
Well, it's a very interesting question. It's certainly very important for Europe, and I think without us it wouldn't be as nearly as powerful. And as the former Secretary General, who did a great job, can tell you, I played when I was there a very big role in making sure that NATO is funded by the 28. At that time, they had 28 countries, including us, because many of the countries weren't paid, and they ended up being paid, you would say, and the Secretary General was very.
And then on to that big misnomer. Once again, what's interesting an ideological cornerstone for Trump is this idea that the United States is never benefiting from these international organizations. He's always saying it in terms of we are doing all of the stuff and everyone else is benefiting from it. But there's never an acknowledgement, not that there aren't sometimes discrepancies in how much effort we're putting in or how much money or how much power or things we'd maybe want to adjust, trade deals we want to adjust, international institutions that have not aligned enough with our interests. All of that is just normal geopolitics. Yeah, you always want to keep trying to make sure your interests are the best represented. Fine. But there's never, from MAGA, any acknowledgement of how the post-World War II world order that we established and then went on to benefit from extensively, a big part of that is the intertwinement of these economies, countries, through these international institutions as it pertains to military strength and alliances, economic entwinement and alliances. And so, yeah, let's always try to improve on how our interests are represented. Wonderful. But Trump will never utter the words, NATO is a crucial institution for us. And we are so proud to be a key part, of course, absolutely, of the existence of NATO, which is one of the things, given that to me it's such a net good, NATO. The fact that we are so critical and we've been so critical to its existence and its strength and its opposition to aggression militarily, that's something that makes me proud to be an American, right? And a lot of the international organizations that we've been a key part of that then allow for a more stable and prosperous world that aren't perfect, obviously, but that's one of the reasons that I'm proud to be an American. And the isolationist ideology that he espouses necessarily rejects that idea that maybe, because they call it globalism, maybe this sort of cooperation and coordination is good for us and then definitely for weaker countries who'd probably be taken over by Russia by now if it weren't for their participation in NATO. One thing I wish that I haven't heard asked about enough in these different cabinet meetings, so if any of these reporters are watching, please can you ask more about this, is Trump's utter assault on the media and how he wants to get every outlet that's negative against him, even recently raging against Fox News for reporting on polling that proves he's not popular. He wants all of them to be 100% pro-Trump. And the latest example is his targeting of 60 Minutes has gotten so bad, and the expectation that maybe they're going to bend the knee to his demands, that the executive producer, longtime executive producer, has resigned. Take a look at this huge reporting.
He wouldn't apologize, meaning Bill. Bill Owens wouldn't bend. He fought for the broadcast and for independent journalism, and that cost him his job. It's shameful, unquote. A second 60 Minutes source tells me, quote, Bill has widespread support at 60. He's dedicated his life to CBS and the broadcast, and this was his last act of dedication to it. It's like a guy who has been battling for months against an attack, unable to defend the broadcast from inappropriate corporate influence. He pulls the pin from his last grenade. He sacrificed himself, hoping it might make our corporate overlords wake up and realize they risk destroying what makes 60 Minutes great. It seems clear now, in a quest to sell the company, Sherry Redstone and others will bow to presidential pressure. 60 Minutes is one of the crown jewels of American broadcast journalism, and they have no problem crushing it in their race to make a deal and make themselves richer, unquote. Sherry Redstone had no comment when we reached out. President Trump, of course, has been trying to kneecap anyone providing oversight over his administration. He literally started his administration by firing a whole bunch of inspectors general. He is currently ignoring judges and courts. He and his MAGA forces intimidate the legislative branch from uttering even a peep of criticism. They're going after law firms. They're going after universities. And this war against the Fourth Estate journalists is of this piece. Owens is not without his critics, of course, but this is not about one man or even about one show. It's about an attempt to be rid of criticism. The Pentagon has taken the offices of CNN and NBC and the New York Times and Politico and reassigned them to outlets that provide more flattering coverage, like Breitbart. The White House is doing the same with wire services, its war against the Associated Press, and bringing in folks like this one from last Friday.
Photos have emerged of Senator Van Hollen sipping what appears to be margaritas with Abreu Garcia down in El Salvador. Do you encourage other Democrats to fly down to El Salvador to meet with this illegal alien who's an accused wife beater?
I like this guy. See, now this is the kind of a reporter we like. There aren't enough of them.
That person, of course, that was asking that question was asking about a lie. Senator Chris Van Hollen says that those margaritas were never touched. They were set up on the table by somebody working for the president of El Salvador to make a joke of this senator's meeting. Those margarita glasses were propaganda, and that's what that person asked about. And of course, that's the kind of reporter that the president likes, because that question was not the question of a reporter. And that is the context of Sherry Redstone's likely bending of the knee.
Exactly right. And this is a pivotal moment in American history where we haven't seen, maybe ever, but at least in a very long time, this sort of targeting of media outlets, trying to get them to capitulate. So bad that this longtime executive producer of 60 Minutes is going, I can't be a part of this. I can't succumb to presidential pressure that stands against every single key principle of journalism. Number one is you're challenging and holding accountable the powerful. So what does it say when you give in to them? Because that's what's in your interest to allow for a merger to go through, which then they're holding hostage as a part of this attack on CBS and then the parent company, Paramount. That needs to be, even though it's almost already fading into the background, because it's not a new, it's just happening in the background constantly. It needs to be frequently brought up. One of the most important threats facing our First Amendment. Share your thinking in the comments, and I'll talk to you in the next video.